Welcome to Immigration Uncovered, the DocketWise video podcast, where we dive deep into the dynamic world of immigration law with the latest developments, practice management strategies, and the transformative impact of legal technology. I'm your host, James Pittman. With me today is Thomas Martin. Thomas is CEO of Law Droid. So, Thomas, welcome to the program. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks, James. I'm thrilled to be here.
So, Thomas, can you share a little bit? Now, you were a practicing attorney. Let us know, do you still practice? And tell us about your journey into the legal tech space and what inspired you to found Law Droid.
Yeah, happy to do so. I am still a practicing lawyer. I have a law firm that does exclusively probate law, and I have a great team that pretty much helps me to manage it without a lot of heavy lifting. So I get to pursue fun and exciting opportunities and challenges with Law Droid.
So how did it come to be though? Give us a little bit of the backstory. I mean, what area of practice did you start out in? Were you always into technology, and how did it evolve?
I'm really glad you asked that question because it's kind of an interesting coincidence. I actually started out with immigration. When I got out of law school, it was around the 2000s, the .com, and lots of investment. And I actually started out with a website that was called immigrationfilings.com.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it was my first foray into legal tech, really. It was a website where there were, it was very basic at the time. It was just forms, and the forms captured information that I would need to fill out, the different immigration forms. And it allowed for a client to have a web-based interactive experience. That was my business that I launched at the time. It lasted a few months. It wasn't, a big success. It was way ahead of its, of its time.
What year was this?
This was 2000.
Wow. Okay. So going back.
Yeah. So way back. I've had experience in a lot of different practice areas, employment, immigration, class actions, personal injury, toxic tort personal injury cases, a whole spectrum of different types of law. So it really gave me, good experience about what different lawyers experience and what their problem points are, what they would like to streamline if they can. And I've just been into tech my whole career and trying to use it to leverage it to make doing the job easier.
So Law Droid is a chatbot. So how did you get the idea for the chatbot?
Yeah, so the idea came a little over 7 years ago now, I think, almost 8, where I saw a news story about Joshua Browder, and he was using a chatbot to fight parking tickets in London. At the time, I think he was 17 years old, and that just caught me by surprise. I hadn't heard of that before, and the ability to use chatbots to essentially automate legal information and advice, that was shocking to me at the time. LegalZoom had already done, document automation, but to combine document automation with provision of legal information and advice, that seemed revolutionary to me. And so I immediately jumped into it, created my own experimental chatbot that helped Californians to incorporate in 3 easy steps. And that just kind of blew the whole opportunity wide open. There was a lot of interest. And since then, I've just been working with a lot of different law firms, lawyers, legal aid organizations, and it's been a fantastic ride.
So, if you're doing a corporation, so we have 50 states. So did you have to modify the product for every one of the 50 states?
No, because at the time it was a raw experiment. It was my first step into chatbots. It was solely focused on California, which interestingly, back then, it was still a paper-based system. You would think that with Silicon Valley, California would be at the forefront. But yeah, I think it was just a couple of years ago, they actually converted over from their paper-based applications to online.
Well, let's dig in a little deeper. So, when you were practicing, what were some of the challenges that you faced that led you to this whole idea of, and see the need really for, leveraging technology to automate? Let's go back now, to, 2000, the late 90s and all of that. The internet revolution is happening. What were you experiencing?
Well, what I was experiencing at the time is what I think lawyers throughout the ages have experienced is that there's too much. There's too much information to get your head around. There's too many documents to draft. And, admittedly, a lot of the documents that we draft and that I was drafting then, fairly similar. I mean, the workflow, like probably most of the lawyers that you have here, is that you start with a shell. And that shell is something that is a template that has most of the information filled out, and you put in your client information, you just swap it out. And that you also, like, there's unique arguments that you might make that have to do with the specific facts of your client. But basically, you're just tweaking that. So the total amount of time that you put into it, it's been less and less over time. We're not, in the 19th century where you had to draft this from scratch with, a blank page. So making that quicker and quicker was what I was trying to do.
Well, let's dig in a little bit to the actual, capabilities. So as far as Law Droid and its current, incarnation, the state of Law Droid, can you tell us about it? Like, what capabilities does it possess? How does it help lawyers to automate their practices? And, piggybacking on that, I mean, in your view, what are the most exciting potentials of legal bots in the industry? I mean, what is the state of the art of the capabilities of legal bots? And what do you think are some of the most promising features that are coming out?
It's an exciting time, and we're just scratching the surface about what generative AI can do to help lawyers practice. And not just the practice of law, but also the business of law, capturing that business. So within a year's time, it's going to, my answer is going to be vastly different about everything that it could do, as it has been over this past year. But so Law Droid has evolved now into a no-code, easy-to-use, intuitive platform where lawyers can use two products. One product is Law Droid Copilot, and they can use it to do some basic legal research, to help them draft letters and emails, to summarize documents, deposition transcripts. It could be, analyzing a motion from opposing counsel, extracting arguments, even creating counter arguments. There's a lot that you could do with it, and it's intentionally built as a bit of a Swiss Army knife because there's a lot of different things that we do throughout the day. So that's Law Droid Copilot, is your AI legal assistant. On the other hand, we have a platform which is called Law Droid Builder, where you can build your own unique custom AI chatbots. And so Copilot is one example of the kind of thing that you could build using our platform.
So it's customizable. So it has some set capabilities, and then you have the option of creating a customizable bot. So you have both pathways. That's great. I mean, does it do intake? I mean, talking about, sort of onboarding leads, how about that capability?
Yeah, that's the one we started out with, even pre-generative AI. We had natural language processing that we'd custom built for it, where it interacts with leads on your website, captures their interest, and then gets their contact information, and now you have a new lead that you could follow up with. It's a fantastic alternative to using essentially call centers that would man your chatbot, and essentially they do the same thing. They simply ask, hey, are you interested? What's your name? What's your phone number? And it never made sense to me why you wouldn't automate that, because it's pretty route, conversation, and saves lawyers a heck of a lot of money. So that's one use case that's very powerful, shows immediate value using the bot to help you capture leads.
And Tom, the Law Droid Copilot and the custom Law Droid Builder, so are they utilizing OpenAI, or where's the engine coming from?
Yeah, so keep in mind, Law Droid's been around for 7 years. We've had this platform for over 3 years, the no-code intuitive platform. And so we still have pre-generative AI systems that we have in place that you could still use to make a very custom solution. But yeah, on top of that, obviously from a year ago, we built onto it an additional layer. So we have many different layers of technology, the latest being generative AI. We use OpenAI's models, all of them you could choose from. And just recently we added on Llama 2, which is a open source AI model that users can select to use that as well.
And you can train it. Can you train it up on your own documents? I mean, let's say you want to create it to create a certain type of motion, and you have a whole set of previous motions of that type that you've done. I mean, are you able to upload those and have it train off of those?
Yeah, in fact, you've been able to do that with our system since January. It's very robust now. Like, you can upload one document, you could upload several documents, PDFs, Word documents, and you could even just have an open text box that you fill in the information that you want it to know about. We call them knowledge bases. And so you could create knowledge bases within our system. If you have many different documents, you could create a knowledge group, which is just a logical collection of knowledge bases. And you could ask questions that are drawn, where the answers are drawn from that knowledge base. But you could also use it, like you said, as a training examples of, like, these are past motions that I've written. I'd like to write one in the style of that.
What are you most excited about going into 2024? I mean, we're at the end of the year and the field is just changing so quickly. I mean, if you had a look in over the next year, both at bots and generative AI, I mean, what are the most exciting things to you?
I think the most exciting thing to me is that I believe that by 2025, we're going to have AGI, which is artificial general intelligence. So that's the human level type intelligence that people have been talking about, which is not really, that's not the end goal. We're going to go far past that. And there's going to be unimaginable things that we'll be able to achieve with this technology, including helping to fight cancer, helping people to stay healthy, lots of great positive things. So that's the most exciting to me. But dialing that back to the reality of, working as a lawyer, is that I think that a lot of what we do, we'll be able to get help with. People still want to hire people. They want to have a lawyer that they can meet with and ask questions of and feel comforted by. That's not going to change. When I deal with clients, even now, it is such an ingrained thing that they want to have a local lawyer, someone who's nearby that they can see, go to the office. That's a very important thing still. And it probably will be for the remaining generation until we make a full transition over to more of an online experience. There is online convenience and people really appreciate that. But at bottom, they still want to have the peace of mind that a person inspires.
What do you think about using AI for adjudications? I asked this to all of my guests who are into tech. I mean, to me, it's, in some sense, it's really like everything else. It's a mixed bag. I mean, on the one hand, I can see where it can eliminate, I mean, of course, depends on how you train it, but I think it can eliminate certain types of biases. I mean, if you have, a technological system using evidence only and comparing it to precedents, I think you can eliminate, subjectivity. Again, it's all in how it's trained. On the other hand, I mean, it's a mixed bag. What are your thoughts on adjudications? I understand that it's being employed already to a certain degree in some European countries. They mentioned, for example, for initial asylum screenings, people are coming in with certain types of claims, and if they do not fit like one of the recognized patterns, it's giving a recommendation to reject the initial claim, something like that.
It's a great question. It's one that I haven't had asked of me before, but I think the advantage to using AI for adjudication, if you're going to use it for that, at least as an initial screener, is that I think you still have subjectivity because you still have training data that is coming from people, and the people inherently have their own biases. Different biases, by the way. But I think what's the advantage to using an AI system is that it externalizes that, right? And then once it's externalized, you can, as you said, you could dial it back. You could essentially retrain the weights, right? The weights of like why it's deciding one way versus another. And once you have control of that, you can, have a system that is more fair. I think, though, at the same time, what I just talked about is an immense amount of power. Like the fact that somebody can retrain the weights to make it less biased, but create a type of system that reflects that person's values and what they want It's just a lot of power that is probably going to be exercised by someone or some people that aren't elected and haven't been, don't necessarily reflect the political will of the people. So there's like this interesting interplay between democracy and technology and fairness and equality that goes on there that I haven't quite completely wrapped my head around.
I mean, we're going to get into the topic of access to justice. One of the exciting things about legal technology in general is that by reducing the amount of actual lawyer labor involved in handling certain tasks, it does have tremendous potential for access to justice, for enabling work to get done for people who, don't have the means to hire an attorney to do all of the work individually in the traditional way. But we're gonna get to access to justice because I know that you are involved in the as an access to justice tech fellow. So let's just hold that for a minute. But before we get to that, I mean, a lot of practitioners are nervous, and people in society in general are nervous about the developments in AI. It's changing so quick, and everyone has some apprehension about the power of this technology and the ways in which it's going to change how we work and how we live. What are some of the misconceptions or sources of hesitation or even stumbling blocks in implementation that you've seen lawyers face when trying to incorporate AI into their practices, up till now?
I think one major misconception with generative AI, which is what we've all been experiencing over the last year, is that it's an oracle, a fact expert, that you could rely upon it for fact-based inquiries. And it's not what it's built for. It could definitely be corrected to include further information to make it better at that. But this has been oversaid, but it's a large language model that's been trained against, the entire internet to understand language better. So it does get some facts right a lot of times, but it shouldn't be relied upon for that. And of course, that misunderstanding has been at the root of the Schwartz case, which had the hallucinations with citations being ill-founded. If I could drive home one thing that is a misconception that I want all the lawyers listening to this to get out of their head, is to be able to understand the difference between ChatGPT, which is the consumer-facing AI, okay, on the one hand, that we've all experienced, hopefully, and if not, try it out. And on the other hand, apps that are built on top of that technology, okay, like Law Droid, like Case Text, like Spellbook, like a whole list of others. When you build on top of that technology, you could build in safeguards. You could build in additional layers that make it more useful, make it more accurate, make it more reliable.
Understood. How about in implementation? I mean, practically speaking, I mean, what do you hear, for example, from Law Droid customers about, well, I tried it, but, I'm having problems getting the most out of it. I mean, when it comes to implementation, what do you say?
Yeah, that is a recurring issue that I'm working through. I think the most important thing there for me is being open to the feedback and trying to work through it to make it a better product. But yeah, there's definitely right now, especially with my product, the back and forth listening about how to make it more useful and better in terms of being able to sit down during your workday and use it and make it part of your workflow. That is a challenge that really depends on the specific lawyer's use case. And all I can say about that is that I'm very open to the feedback from my customers to make Law Droid.
So do you see it? I mean, do your customers really come from all practice areas now, or are they concentrated in a few? Or, I mean, give us a sense of the universe of use cases here that you've seen. I mean, in terms of, and things that might surprise us that people are using it for, if you can think of it.
We've worked with many different types of lawyers, law firms. We have a legal insurance company that is an enterprise client of Law Droid's, and we help them to manage their relationship with their network of attorneys. They have 15,000 attorneys that are part of their network, and we help them to manage that relationship and, answering frequently asked questions, and then a bunch of other things that I can't go into a lot of detail about. But working with a legal insurance company is probably something that you never thought Law Droid was doing. Also, we worked with over a dozen maybe 20 at this point, legal aid organizations where we help them to scale up their services to the people that qualify for legal aid, you know? So like one example of that is if you're applying for workers' compensation in Tennessee, you could use our system to interview you and complete the claim form that you need to file with the state of Tennessee. It also like speaks to you if you, if you, if that helps people in terms of accessibility to use that system. And then of course there's the lawyers and law firms that we work with. We've also worked with a lot of law schools over the past year because we have this briefing function built into it where it could grab a case, brief it, the issue, the holding, the reasoning, and put all of that together for law students. So they're very excited about that. There's a lot of different, as you see, a lot of different stakeholders that have different use cases and interests. And it's really helped us to build a more robust product. And it's one that I'm really proud of, but I know that there's still a lot of work to make it a lot better.
Well, and Thomas, you co-founded the organization American Legal Technology and its awards program, and you're frequently promoting the ALT awards. So tell us about ALT. How did that come to be? What are the goals of the organization? What motivated you to get involved in this initiative, and what impact do you hope it will have on the legal tech community? And was it the first award show that you had recently? And if so, how did it go?
Yeah, when I hear questions like that, it reminds me like I've been juggling a lot. I've been doing a lot of things. So the American Legal Technology Awards, it started 4 years ago. I have two co-founders, Patrick Pallas, he's a lawyer that does workers' comp in Tacoma, and Kat Moon, who's a professor at Vanderbilt Law School. Sometimes people don't believe me, but it really started out as just an excuse to have a party where people can have a good time and, dress up, have fun, and honor, the innovation that people are up to. That's really how it started. And then COVID happened. So we had to do the first 2 years just online. And then the last 2 years have been in person. Just this past year in October, we had it in Nashville, Tennessee. And it was just, it was sold out, 150 people. It was fantastic. It was really wonderful. And we got to honor some people that have been working very hard to make everybody's lives better. Our Lifetime Achievement Award went to Carolyn Elephant, who is just an amazing person. And she's also been working for the past 30 years to help other lawyers start their own law firms. So it's things like that that make it really worthwhile.
Yeah, I interviewed Carolyn, and she is really, really an inspiring person. She's just been at this business of trying to, she's really one of the people who's been at this the longest in terms of helping lawyers to optimize their practices. We were talking about, decades ago when one of the only resources out there was Jay Thunberg's book. But and then she had her blog and her book. But yeah, so, and you were named as an American Bar Association Journal Legal Rebel. It's an interesting designation. So that's a significant recognition. And what does it mean to you to be a legal rebel? And do you consider yourself a legal rebel?
I do, because I think I've felt and been a bit of an outsider when it comes to like the legal establishment of doing it a certain way where you go extremely deep in one practice area and you just become a total expert, and that you work at one firm for a very long time. Like I mentioned, I've moved around quite a bit. I found that experience enriching, but I understand at the same time that it's not the typical or expected traditional experience that lawyers have. So in that sense, I guess I'm a bit of a rebel. But no, to me, what that has meant is that people are, that I feel seen, that the work that I've done has been recognized, and that it feels like it's been appreciated.
And you're shaking things up for the better. And I ask a lot of people this question as well. Don't you get the sense that the field as a whole, legal industry as a whole, is becoming a lot more flexible than it used to be, and in part because of technology, people working remotely, COVID? It used to be the case that you kind of, The goal was you go into a firm and you're going to stay there. And it's like, it was a very sort of lockstep, way of going through a career. I mean, people sometimes left and then went to a corporation and worked in-house and that kind of thing. But there wasn't a ton of flexibility. But I really do feel like the field as a whole is becoming a lot more flexible. Do you feel that way as well?
Oh, definitely. There's so many more choices over the past 7, 8 years than there were previously. It totally was that system you described, this lockstep system. But now, a friend of mine, Joshua Lennon, who's the attorney in residence at Clio, I remember, 7 years ago when we were doing Legal Hackers together, that he spoke at University of British Columbia Law School. And he was talking to them about what he was doing and how it was like an legal alternative, career path. And that was kind of, whoa, what is this? This is real different. But there's so much of that now. Like it's great that lawyers have many more opportunities that can enrich them, because lawyers aren't all the same. Some of us are very creative, and when we don't have that creative outlet, it's not as fulfilling. So the fact that attorneys like Alex Su can be out there and making us laugh and doing TikToks and, a great, commentary and criticism of the industry at the same time, that's in a positive way, I think that's all for the better.
The Fifth Circuit, I mean, as AI becomes more utilized in legal practice, some of the authorities, whether they're the courts or the bar authorities and so forth, are thinking about, ethical guidelines and things like that. I know that the Fifth Circuit has a proposed regulation that they're seeking comment on, where they would require lawyers to certify every document that they're filing as to whether it had been prepared with the use of AI and whether, it had been reviewed for precision and that sort of thing. I mean, what is your opinion on that type of regulation? To me, frankly, seems kind of heavy-handed, not really the direction we should be going in. I'm interested in what you think about it. I mean, the technology is changing. It's going to keep changing so quickly. I mean, to an approach like that, where you're forcing people to sign off on every document that way, it just doesn't seem. I mean, is it, first of all, isn't what they're really asking you to attest to? Isn't that really already covered by existing ethical rules? I mean, at least if they're read broadly enough. And do we really need that? And are we going to have, do we have a rule like that every single time a technological advance comes out? I mean, what do you think about that?
I think in federal court, Rule 11 is sufficient. Like, we don't need these additional add-on AI, affirmations. Like, I understand it though. It makes sense to me that as a bit of a correction against what's happened with, the Avianca case and another one, that people would want to do this. The judges would want to do this, because if they don't do this, then, there's a concern that they're not watching closely enough. So I get the motivation for it, but I think in the long run, all of those will fall away, and it'll just be what it has always been, Rule 11, where you just stand behind your work product and you're responsible for it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it seems like a reactive measure, one which doesn't, I mean, is not one that in the long run is going to be the best way to approach the pace of technological innovation that we're seeing, right? I mean, we need some broad guidelines and flexibility to operate within those broad guidelines, rather than, these very, very narrow, certifications. Let's talk about your role as a mentor at the Yale Sci Center for Innovative Thinking. What's the center about? It's the first I've heard of it. Sounds fascinating. And you also have a role at the Access to Justice Tech Fellows, which I understand is that out of University of Pennsylvania?
Yes.
Yeah. So tell us about your activities at these two, engagements.
Well, both of them have essentially been mentor type positions, where I get to work with usually younger law students on the side of the A to J Tech Fellows, and with the Sci Center for Excellence, that's been a lot of college students that are entrepreneurial. And to me, it's always been important, because I had the benefit of people helping me when I was younger and them paying it forward to me, that I in turn do that. And it's not in the sense of an obligation. It's more in the sense of it's really enriching, that when you get to talk to people that are encountering these life situations and professional situations that you encountered when you were younger, and helping them through it. Hopefully they get to avoid some of the pitfalls that we experienced when we were going through it the first time as a result of the advice that they're given. And if not, we're only human. But to have somebody who could listen to that and to be helpful, and if anything, supportive.
So the Yale Center is sort of broadly for entrepreneurs and innovators at the university. The Access to Justice Tech Fellows, is that in association with Penn's Law School, or?
Yeah, Miguel Willis is the leader of that program. He sometimes has, classes where, let's say, he'll focus on legal technology and AI in particular, and I'll have a session where I get to speak to the whole group of fellows about that and what it means and how to take advantage of that opportunity. But also, like, to be able to speak occasionally to fellows one-on-one where, they have questions about something and I can give them some advice about how to deal with it. So yeah, they both have essentially been mentor-mentee opportunities, and yeah, they've been very fulfilling.
And I mean, what would be some of your key advice that you find yourself giving over and over to aspiring legal tech entrepreneurs these days?
Stick to it. Don't get down from the ups and downs that you'll experience, which we all do. It's not a rocket ship. It's not what you hear about in the movies or in the news all the time, where it's just a up and to the left kind of chart that is just, rocket growth. If you get that, fantastic, good for you. But a lot of us struggle through, the month to month and keeping customers happy, learning from the feedback that they give you, which can be challenging at times because you think, man, I'm not doing this right. And using it as an opportunity to improve things. I think the number one thing is just having that mental strength, the fortitude to just keep going and get through it.
And with the Access to Justice Tech Fellows, I mean, what really, in practical terms, are they trying to do? Can you drill down a little bit on the details?
Well, I think all of those law students have a genuine interest in helping people. And the A2J Tech Fellows it allows them to explore that in a way that combines their passion for helping people with technology, seeing how they can marry those two together, their legal background with technology, in an effort to expand people's access to legal services and justice.
And Thomas, you speak at a lot of conferences. Which speaking engagements have left the most lasting impact on you, and why?
The first one was in 2016, I think it was. Got invited by Clio to speak at the Clio Cloud conference. And I was talking about chatbots, how to make them, all things chatbots, because it was just really popping at the time. And they were such gracious hosts, and getting to speak in front of so many people, it was a lot of fun. The second one I remember is when, I think it was 2017, with the British Legal Technology Awards. Law Droid was nominated for an award, and I got to speak on a panel, and the moderator was Richard Susskind. And that was an amazing experience. They were also very gracious hosts, and getting to see London and then the legal tech community that I love, meeting Professor Susskind, it was a fantastic, memorable time.
Let's talk a little bit more about the key challenges that legal tech entrepreneurs face. So in your view, what are they, and how can they overcome these key challenges?
Sure. I think a key challenge for any legal tech entrepreneur is money, because you're going out in this venture, it's new, it's different, but they also need support financially to be able to pursue this thing. And, if they're not independently wealthy, they probably need to ask for some money I think, though, that what's interesting right now at this moment in time is that if they're incorporating AI in any way into what their solution is, that things are tilting towards bootstrapping. Like it's traditionally been, you have this idea or you have some initial traction, you go out to VC and you raise, X million dollars to pursue it. And either you can get the money or you don't. And if you don't, then you don't pursue it. But I think the economics of everything, especially with AI being so affordable, easy to implement with the right developers, that you could get your company off the ground and make it profitable by just bootstrapping it with not a ton of money. So I think those economics have changed, and it is a big sea change for legal tech in general, and one that I think bodes well for entrepreneurs.
Thomas, you also run a podcast, which is Law Droid Manifesto. What sorts of topics do you cover on your podcast, and what are you trying to provide your audience in terms of value with the content?
Yeah, and I have to confess that I wish I was more regular in terms of my publications to Law Droid Manifesto, both in terms of the articles and the podcast. But I do it when it inspires me. And my take on things is at a much more general level. I know there's been so much going on, and I really didn't want to do the day by day, like this is what's happening today, this is the new specific thing, and take more of a philosophical viewpoint, because my undergrad degree's in philosophy. I like to look at things like that about the movements and like generalizations of what's going on. And I think, people find that valuable too, especially when they're being hit with a lot of the day-to-day developments.
And you're also co-founder of Vancouver Legal Hackers. Are you still involved in it? And how important has that collaboration been? And how important do you think community building is in the legal tech sector?
Community building is where it's at, just in general, just in life. Like, we call it community building, but it's getting to know people, getting to understand how we all, link together and what other people need, and how you can connect them with people that can help them, even if it's not a direct thing. Life isn't and shouldn't be transactional. It should be more about how we can all enrich our lives from knowing each other. And to get back to your specific, see, I'm getting philosophical here. To get back to what you were asking me about at Vancouver Legal Hackers, I'm still involved in that. I'm in the moment right now of transitioning that to some new leadership, because I'm pursuing American Legal Technology Awards, Law Droid's own first conference coming up. I've got a lot going on. So it's been fantastic. When I first moved to Vancouver, I established that with some other co-founders, and it was a fantastic way to get to know people in a new city. And we all shared the same common interests of being in love with the law and technology. So I would highly recommend, meetups and organizations like that for people to get to know each other.
And you were a Fast Case 50 honoree, which is quite an honor. So how do you see recognition impacting the work you do and the causes you champion?
For anyone who's working hard, you always wonder, do people notice? Like, do people see, how hard you're working, and that you're really giving it out to the universe and hoping that things come back. And those recognitions are fantastic, because you do feel seen, you do feel valued. And the Fast Case 50, that was one that came early, and I was just so excited by it. And it really helped to open some doors in people that, I could talk to about what I was working on, because it's one thing to, do the work and have your own accomplishments and the things that you've created with your own hands. But to be recognized for it, you get to talk to people and be taken more seriously, for better or for worse. And it's been a great honor to be honored by Fast Case 50 the ABA Legal Rebels, and the British Legal Technology Awards, amongst some others. It was just I'm always very thankful for their acknowledgement.
With all of the technology and automation that firms today can leverage, what do you think are the most crucial skills that legal professionals, especially people just coming into the field, uh, or even those who feel like they are still catching up? I mean, what do you think are some of the skills that people should strive to acquire so that they can future-proof their legal practice and really thrive in a tech-driven legal landscape?
What I think is the number one skill is probably not what anyone is expecting me to say. I think it's curiosity. I think it's having an open mind. I think that's the key, especially right now, especially with things, this crazy, rocket ship that we're on right now, where we're not quite sure where it's going. I think having an open mind and being curious about these new things is the way that we stay relevant. I think that if you just focus on what you're doing, your niche practice, and just do that, you're going to miss the forest. And before you know it, you might be left behind. So you don't want to do that. You want to keep on top of what's going on. I know there's so much to keep up with. You don't have to keep track of everything, but to explore, play around with ChatGPT, other software, you don't have to pay tons of money. A lot of the stuff you can try for free, and just keep on top of things.
And how do you balance, being a founder of Law Droid and continuing to run and develop the company with, all of these other projects that you're involved in? What's your personal philosophy? Let's get back to the philosophy. What's your personal philosophy of balance in all of your different projects?
I guess, like maybe a lawyerly move is to take issue with the assumptions underlying the question. That there is a balance. I mean, the thing is that it is a reflection of who we are. I love my family. I spend time with my family. I love technology. I've created a legal tech company, Law Droid, to pursue that. I love the profession that we're all a part of, and combining them all and racing to keep up with all of these different interesting projects is just something that makes life fulfilling and worthwhile. So how do I do it? I have no idea. It is a bit crazy at times, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I think if I was just doing one thing over and over and over again, that would not be a good fit for me. And I'm not suggesting that everyone do this. It's quite a lot of juggling that I do, but it keeps life interesting for me.
And you're currently based in Vancouver?
Yeah, I'm originally from Los Angeles, California, but I live in Vancouver now for 10 years.
What's next for Law Droid? And what's next for Thomas Martin in terms of projects or initiatives you're most excited about in the coming months and the new year?
Well, James, I think what's next for me is to continue to fight the good fight of building this product, as I know you're familiar with yours, and to continue to try to do my best to please customers and build that user base, which over time is just an amazing, asset, both in terms of getting to work with a lot of great people, but also like the financial independence that comes from that. To further, grow that is what's next. In terms of the technology and how that's going to play out within Law Droid, I can't really, predict based on what we've seen where that's going to go. But I can say that what my plan is to just make Law Droid a trusty assistant that can help lawyers with the work that they do, but also to help people and do social good. So that's really what I have in mind. And the more that we get together with the awards, with the conferences that I'm organizing, the more we get to see each other and feel good about that, exchange ideas, and grow together.
I agree with you. The community building, the sharing, the exchange of ideas, it's so incredibly important, both for us to experience, the richness of life and of being in this field, and also to keep driving forward the innovation. So Thomas, I'm right there with you on that. And congratulations on, from what I understand, is a fantastic job with the legal awards. I mean, I couldn't get to Nashville for it, but definitely do want to make the next one. But Thomas, we're getting up to the end of the hour, and I want to thank you again for appearing on the podcast, because it's been a fascinating conversation. Very, very impressive story. Thomas G. Martin, founder of Law Droid, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, James. I truly appreciate it, getting the time to speak with you and with your audience. Thank you.